Agreed with video kid.
Oh no.
All right, welcome everybody. Podcast number 6 from the Durmanhoth clan. Let me get right to introductions. We got a lot of things to cover. First, we got Khan, the first lieutenant.
Hello.
The lieutenant ranks are used to help maintain important information. Gets filtered down their specific members of their squads and handles some direct supervision of newer members. Next up, we got Thorol.
Hello.
Hey, no camera today.
No.
Thorol is the Admiral of the DC Navy, division head for the PvE aspect of DC, and coordinator for the progressive raid team. And next up is Nyrus.
Actually, I sell progressive insurance, but that'll do.
That'll work. Nyrus, you there? There you are.
Yeah.
Field Marshal. I'm glad that title was changed because I'd never be able to pronounce the original one.
Yeah. Sorry. I don't think any.
He's assistant guild leader, handles all division head operations, and maintains workflow. I'm sorry, I'm reading right off a piece of paper and I cannot read. And maintains work flow is being completed as needed. Okay, I'll re-edit that someday. You do everything. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
And then we got Lahira, the Dark Queen. She's the co-GM, oversees all government operations, including recruitment, ambassador program, and guild events. Hi, Lahira.
Hello.
And that's it for the show. Thanks for everybody coming. No.
Okay.
Welcome. I want to welcome Hardware, Overlord of the Durmanhoth clan, the sponsor of this webcast.
How y'all doing?
Hardware, can you tell us a little bit about DC?
First, real quick, we've been around since 1993 from the text-based mods. We've played everything from the Two Towers, which was a mod, all the way through UO, Star Wars Galaxies, SWOTR, AOC, everything. We came across the Republic, Repopulation, I'm sorry, and it was everything that we've been looking for in a game that we've been lacking. A lot of the games out there have been kind of failing for us. So we jumped right in, feet first into the deep end, and that's kind of why we're here. Just a little heads up for everybody that this podcast will be going over mechanics dealing with the normal server at this time. The hardcore server will be released at a later time. So keep in mind everything that we're doing is always going to be the normal server. And with that, Governor Wolf, who handles all of our PR and guild event stuff, go get it going.
All right. And finally, last but not least, this is Kayletta, Associative Creative Director for the Repopulation.
Hi, everyone.
I thought I got fancy and I put a nice title on the background on top of you, and it's you can't see it very well, but trust me, that's your name and your title there.
It's even in a pretty font. I can see it.
Okay, well, let's get right down to it. The first question that we got is for you is going back in time. Can you walk us through the events that landed you into your current position with the Repopulation?
Sure, I can do that. Like a lot of people, I actually found the game on MMORPG.com. Didn't have anything to play, was looking for something new. All the linear theme parks were boring me, and I wanted something different. I wanted another sandbox to get into. And I started rolling through the list there, and I looked at a lot of different games, but Repopulation was the only one that really stood out as with having a chance to really succeed and having a vision that you don't see very often. And the devs were so vocal and so involved with the community. I started posting there, and getting answers straight from the people who were coding the mechanics was just huge for me. So I put in an application to write for them, and they got back to me a couple weeks later, and I've been on the team ever since. It's 15, 16, maybe 17 months, going on a year and a half close to. But that's kind of how I ended up here. It was just I was a gamer looking for a game, and I happened to have a skill set that they could use. So
It's exciting. I think everyone has that dream, and I'm glad you're living it.
yeah, it is really because I'm a scientist, I'm a biochemist, I'm a writer, and I'm a gamer, and I get to combine all three of those things here on with Repopulation. And so it really is just sort of a dream come true for me.
Okay. The next question we got for you is, how would you describe the repopulation to a newcomer to the game?
To a newcomer, I would say that this MMO has more interdependency than any other MMO I have ever seen. Every single playstyle is vital to all of the rest of them. They're necessary. We don't shove anybody to the side and make them unimportant. It's expansive and it's meaningful, and it's something that we don't see very often. We're definitely a sandbox. We have some theme park elements along with the sandbox, but even then, everything sort of meshes together. It's very cohesive for an MMO. We are sci-fi, but don't think the Force, Star Wars type sci-fi. Think hard science. We try to root everything in reality so that we can explain things, how the ship traveled, how cloning works, why things are the way they are on the planet. We actually get into the science and explain it for real. So it's definitely different than what else you see on the market today and what we've seen in the past.
And in your background comes in handy there then.
It does, actually. It's a wonderful thing. I love physics and biochemistry and biology in general, and so I've been able to kind of use all of those things while I was working, crafting, working with Trixie on the lore. All of it's kind of come into play, so it's been a lot of fun just being able to use my college in gaming. It's interesting to be able to do that without being a programmer.
Mm-hmm. Next question we have is, what are some of the sandbox or open world game elements that the repopulation will have?
Well, the big thing that makes it a sandbox for me is that it's persistent. What you do today can be there tomorrow. You go build a player city. These cities are customizable, and they can be there. And if a guild works for it, they could drop one. They could have the first city on the server, and 3 years down the line, their city could still be there, and it could be thriving. So for me, the persistence, the permanence of things really emphasizes that idea of a sandbox. We have player housing. We have over 75 skills that you're able to master. We don't have skill caps, which means you can do everything that you want to do, but you have to invest the time in order to do it. We have a mission system that's like nothing else that I've seen anywhere else. Our engagement system is similar to the mission system. It's very unique, innovative compared to public quest systems that we've seen in the past. So overall, the sandbox elements, we have pretty much everything there that you would consider in a sandbox, and some other things that people don't really think about as being important, such as the ability to make your character any way you want them instead of being tied down to a class. The ability to have something that belongs to you, but just like in the real world, it can be taken away from you in instances like with player cities and things of that nature. So I would say those are probably the sandbox features that really hit home to me. I know housing is big for a lot of people. Lore, expansive lore, and that's one of the things that we're constantly working on. That's huge for a lot of people as well. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to touch on for sandbox stuff, but I think that's really what hits me hard there to feel like it's a sandbox is those things.
And another question is, what aspects of the repopulation are unique compared to other games on the market today?
Well, the number one things that comes to mind when we talk about something that's unique is the mission system. I don't know who all here has played SWTOR, but they gave players the illusion of choice. They said, we have this storytelling pillar, and you can reply back to these NPCs, and what you say matters to them. But in reality, it didn't matter. You, at the end of the day, when you leveled up, you ended up in the same place as every other person that was the same class as you. The choices that you made did not actually matter to you. And that's where we seriously differ. When we say you have choice and this choice matters to your character, we absolutely mean it. There's a mission in the game right now. I use this one as an example a lot when I'm trying to explain the mission system and what it means. A mission called Clandestine Love Affair. And you get mailed from an NPC who's in love with the bartender's wife at the bar called the Hole on the Hill. And you go there and he asks you to create a distraction so he and his love can run away. And you have the option of going in and creating a distraction. There are different methods to create a distraction with. You can call the bartender out and you can kill the guy, and that allows them to go away and be happy. There are other things that you can do to create a distraction as well. But you can also go to the bartender and say, hey, you know what? There's this guy outside who wants to run away with your wife. And then it turns everything on its head, because now instead of helping this guy who came to you, you've now just betrayed him. And so the bartender will ask you then to lead the guy around back so his friends can kill the guy. So it really matters the choices that you make there, because if you help him out, you get one set of alignment points. I believe it's common folk. But if you betray him, you don't get those, because you're not helping the little guy who can't help himself. You've just betrayed him. And those alignment points, as they stack up, they will tailor missions to your behaviors through things like common folk, heroic, underworld, greedy. If you're always taking the money option, the greedy option, if you're willing to extort people for more money or blackmail people, those things will cause NPCs to send you missions that specifically exploit that behavioral trait, the fact that you want more money at any cost. And that's how we're making this mission system way different than anything else that we've seen in the past.
Well, it's funny, that same scenario happened in real life with me and Nyrus. I helped him out, right, Nyrus?
Yes, you did.
Can you drag behind the bar?
Well, I'm not going to tell you the outcome of our mission.
My real question, though, is can I run away with the barman's wife?
I don't believe that you get to do that. She's not coded to like you. Sorry.
Specifically you.
So you're saying it's just like real life.
A little bit of realism there.
Boo.
All right, the next question is, when the game is live, will you have additional duties in the game world itself?
Well, we don't have anything nailed down, so this is all just speculation and kind of what I would like to do. But chances are I'll continue writing, I'll continue managing the writers group. In addition to that, I'll probably take on some GM duties. But the thing I really want to do is run the event management team. And we're looking at hopefully eventually being able to do some things like live events on the server. And I would love to be a part of that. I would love to run it, to write them, to recruit the people to actually have these things. And I would like for them to not be that rarity that you see in most games where, that one server event is all anyone talks about for 6 months. In 6 months, I would love to give people 2, 3, 4 of them to talk about. And, this would be a way for us to push the lore forward. So that's what I want to do. We're not promising that we're going to have live events, but if I have any say in it whatsoever, I will definitely be handling some events in game.
Yeah, I definitely like stuff like that. Something that's not normal, everyday, day-to-day stuff.
Well, if we do have a Twitch question.
All right.
All right, it says, in regards to choices matter, if I help NPC 1 be able to run away with the bartender's wife, will he just reappear later to someone else to pick up the mission? And will a new NPC spawn for that type of mission? Is it phased?
No, we don't phase anything. There's a few missions that actually do have instances like apartment instances or a cave instance, but they really are the rarity. Most things are actually done in the real world in front of everyone else. He would reappear, I do believe, but given the fact that even if you lead him around and have him killed, everyone gets recloned here. We're a cloning society, so it's not a stretch to say he shows back up and he's still in love with the woman. Likewise, if she dies somewhere down the road, she would get recloned, and chances are she would get recloned right back where she was. So it's not even a stretch to say that they would show back up in the same places, but no, it's not like a one and done. Although we do have some of those. We do have one-time missions that the first person to complete them, they go away after that. They can respawn, but you're not going to see 10 people in a row completing the exact same mission with those one-time missions.
Okay. If anyone has questions, feel free to ask them, and we'll do exactly that. We'll go to it, provided we're not in the middle of something. Much like they did there, you put a Q for questions so it stands out, or asterisks or something.
We did have a question just as we started from, I don't know if it's Jesus or Jesus6691. Know what you're drinking, Kayletta?
What am I drinking? Actually, I have 2 glasses. I have a glass of Coke and a glass of water.
There you go.
Yeah, that's actually one of the guys on the writing team. That's who that is. I know who that is.
Okay. The next question we got for you is, settlements can turn into dungeons and towns can be overrun. Got that from the webpage. How does this happen? What effect does it have on the area? And can you give us examples?
Well, what you're talking about there is the engagement system. The engagements are like public quests. I originally saw them in Warhammer, but Rift did something like public quests with the Rifts. But we take engagements a step further. We have mutating engagements. And these things can mutate not only if you don't fight them off, but even sometimes if you do. The things that you do can cause this to mutate in several different ways in some cases. One of the big ones that actually comes to mind is a engagement at Amar Hydro Plant. It's called Hawkfig mating season, and these bull hawkfigs spawn like out of nowhere, and they start assaulting the hydraulics plant. And you have to stop them. And, you can go out and you can kill them, and that's great. But they climb onto the hydraulic platform, and they start killing the NPCs. And in some of these cases, these are NPCs that you need. They send you quests, and if they're dead, they won't be doing that. So, you have to go and you have to stop them. You can build barricades to stop them. You can kill them. But you can also go kill the female hawkfigs who are not enraged and flipping out. And you can get a scent gland off of them, smear it on yourself, and it attracts the bull hawkfigs, and you can kind of run them away. So we have things like that. And, if you don't do anything to the engagement, they do overrun the platform, which is problematic to say the least. So in that kind of way that we do a lot of mutations. There's another engagement in Amon Village where you have a settling incursion. And the Amanis are peaceful people. They're pacifists. They don't want you to kill these settlings, even though their lives are threatened. If you don't do anything, they can overrun the settlement and kill everyone. But if you do go to fight them off, if you do choose to participate in the engagement, what you have to do is you have to drive them off without actually killing them. I believe the mechanic that we went with was fireworks. We actually have to shoot fireworks on the ground near them, and it scares them away. And you have to just basically push them back away from the village in order to successfully complete the engagement. But if you don't, then they run through the village and wipe things out.
Do the villagers have Care Bear stairs?
This is what?
Do the villagers have Care Bear stairs?
No, they want you to take fireworks and shoot them at the settlings so they don't have to.
Oh.
I wonder if that first one was that idea come up from like a deer hunter, what the whole doe scent thing going on to attract them.
Yeah, kind of. It was a joke, that you could like get their pee and smear it on yourself because that's kind of what you do to attract males in mating season for animals. So we said it jokingly at first, but the more we thought about it, it was like, as gross as that is, the thought of it is, it's a completely effective mechanism to use. So and we went with it. It's in there.
Does that work for real
You don't
people?
run fast enough.
I don't know if that works for humans. You're welcome to try though. Let me know how that works out for you.
Yeah.
If you don't run fast enough, will they mount you?
No, I think they actually stampede you and maul you.
Oh, that's not as much fun.
I don't know. Given their size, I'm not sure either one of those would be very much fun.
Is anyone got questions here that you noticed?
We do have one
that?
on Twitter, but it's in reference to PvP, so we can hold that off till we get to that.
Okay. So we'll switch over to the. We got some screenshots that you gave us.
Yes.
There's a couple new ones here. I kind of haphazardly threw them in at the last moment here, and I have larger views. Let's take a look here. Can you guys see my screen? I forgot to ask you that earlier.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have any information on any of these particular ones?
Actually, the one you have up right now, our art director actually took that one, and I truly don't even know where that is, but it's pretty, isn't it? I don't go run all the zones. A lot of what I do is outside of the game or just standing in the game to put in missions. So I haven't actually seen this area as far as I know. I'm going to venture and say it's probably up north of the Plymouth Meta area and say it's probably somewhere around the Oasis, but I'm not positive.
The one tree looks like a good place for a deer stand or whatever those things that were rubbing pee on us for.
Hawkfig? Hawkfig aren't like deer. Think more like enraged bull.
Okay.
They're I think we have a picture up on the main website. If you look in the bestiary, I think we have one of the hawkfig. I believe hawkfig are where you get bacon from in the game too. They're seriously important.
Well, that is very important.
Yeah, bacon. Gotta have it.
Hey, Kayletta,
Yes.
real quick, since we saw the trees and all that, one of the members had asked before regarding if there's any plans to, or if it's even possible really, to have a climbing skill where it's involved, you can go on top of trees and climb stuff like that at all.
That would not be my area of expertise. That would really be a programming question as to what that would entail. I think a lot of that would entail very specialized trees, specialized physics and stuff for him. We don't have that, and I don't think that we're going to see anything like that by release, but if it ends up being something useful, possibly in the future.
So this one we got up here looks kind of like a sandy area.
That would be Kayletta. It's a city town in the Owan faction side. It's a little ways out from Plymouth City. It's sort of a beach area. It's very, very pretty out there. And there's beautiful lakes and sandy beaches and stuff. It's a really nice looking area, but it's not an area that you want to go just hang out in. There's some pretty serious engagements that go down there, some pretty bad stuff. I believe they have a drug kingpin that uses Kayletta as his personal base of operations. So, and the engagement that goes along with that is pretty tough for people.
I like the shadow of the palm tree on the ground there too as well. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, the shadows in the game are actually really nice. I wish I could have gotten the video done up so that we could have seen them in motion, but the shadows are beautiful, beautiful in a lot of locations. They really add to the ambient feel when you're on the ground. I take way too many screenshots from an aerial view and everything looks crazy like that, but when you're on the ground there and you're really just playing the game, the shadows is just another level of ambience. We have some areas where that's just completely covered in trees, and you can see the little tiny light dots on the ground, just like you would in a real forest, where that one ray of light has happened to penetrate and get all the way down to the forest floor. And it even comes through like that in the game. It's absolutely wonderful.
We do have a question. Does the foliage flow as if there's wind?
Yes, I want to say in most locations it does. I think we have a few places that just aren't windy, but we have an amazing weather system in there as well. JC spent a lot of time dealing with the weather system. We have everything from rainstorms, lightning storms. That's another engagement actually, is when lightning strikes a town and sets it on fire. We have, I'm trying to think of what all else he put in there. I believe he put in sandstorms. And they completely affect the environment. They affect the way that you view things. I think we have snowstorms up in the snow areas. So we have a beautiful, no Sharknadoes. We have a beautiful weather system though.
And this one, I like this one. It looks like a bar or a hotel.
Yeah, that's the hole on the hill. That's the bar I was telling you about earlier, where clandestine love affair happens.
Ah.
That its original incarnation was a seedy little bar, but we upgraded it and turned it into this big, beautiful structure. There, it got modernized, but it's still a place where some very disreputable people like to hang out. You think you got a mafia kingpin that sits in there. The owner of the bar isn't exactly the nicest guy. But it's not too far off of Plymouth City. But it's a trek through the wilderness to get there, and you'll meet settling and vultures along the way, and there are oh goodness, I'm trying to think of what the name of them. There's a group, the Numbskulls, that come through occasionally and harass people. That's literally their name is the Numbskulls. They come through the hole in the hill and harass people occasionally. So they kind of liven the place up a little bit.
Here's a very purpley one.
Purple.
That is that a harvester in the background there? Is this SWG?
No, actually, that's definitely not a harvester. I believe that is a shot from Fool Sanctuary. That's up off of the actual river. They have some little camps that are set up back there. They're like for research, and I believe that's what that's from. Actually, it is from that area.
And here's our last one. It looks like it really gets dark in the game.
Oh yeah, it definitely does get dark. That is from Full Sanctuary at night. It's an absolutely beautiful shot right there. You can see the splash coming off of the waterfalls as they kind of course down the hill there. The night sky is absolutely gorgeous. It looks that beautiful pretty much everywhere. More often than not, I will go in, and if I'm walking around to look at stuff, I'll actually flip it on tonight because the night sky is just so beautiful. It really makes you feel like you're somewhere in outer space to see all those stars so clearly. Because if you live in a town that has a lot of light, you go outside and you don't see a lot of stars. But if you ever go out into the forest, like away from all the cities and stuff, you look up in the sky and it looks completely different here on Earth. And that's kind of the same thing with Rilden there. You're out in the wilderness when you're running around here, and you look up in the sky and it looks like this big expansive universe. So to me, it helps kind of bring in the immersion, but honestly, I'm girl enough to just admit it's gorgeous. So I turn on nighttime just so I can see the sky.
Okay, we have a Twitter question.
We have a Twitter question?
Yeah. They asked if there's going to be anything like birds or ships or anything like that that's going to be airborne that not necessarily we can engage with, but just to add to the atmosphere.
I think we already have some ambient things, and I think we have plans for some more, but as to exactly what those are, that's more of the art department side of things. I know we've talked about doing some sort of, butterfly type creature or birds or something of that nature. I think we have some things already, but as far as exactly what we're going to have ambience wise, I'm not positive. I know for a while they had shuttles lifting off from Plymouth City. I don't know if they canned that or if they're changing it up or whatever, but I believe the plan was to have shuttles lifting off from Plymouth City where you could kind of see them doing so. So yeah, we're going to have some ambience going on.
I had a question real quick. When it does get dark like that, are we going to be able to carry any type of flashlight or torch through the environment?
Yeah, we do have, we definitely are. We already have flashlights. I've been told from the testers that the flashlights don't really work very well out in the expanse, out in the open. But for caves, and caves are very, very dark. You're definitely going to have a flashlight. Lantern-wise, I'm not positive if we're going to have some sort of old-fashioned handheld lantern, but it's a possibility.
We have another question from Hyperium's wanted to say, related to the environment, any plans for things like mining for materials, possibly with set structures, since this is a sci-fi setting that players can construct or claim and then have to protect?
We actually had some things about that in a feature not very long ago on resource gathering. And we are going to have semi-static clusters that come up. And as far as what the structure is going to look like on them, I'm not positive. But they will be semi-static, and you will be able to fight over them and claim them.
Sarissa, did the question that you asked, did it get answered by the question that Nairis just asked in reference to a flashlight or a light source?
Yeah, I just
She,
saw that.
yeah, she seemed to have asked the same kind of question.
I've been told we have a sword that glows, but we don't have lightsabers. This isn't Star Wars.
Okay, she said it was answered.
How about a solar-powered flashlight? You think that'll be profitable? Will that work?
I don't know. I don't think our flashlights actually consume batteries. Rilden, we've really tried to integrate the idea of green and clean, renewable energy sources. Like you won't find anything in there that deals with oil or burning of coal, because we're on our way to ruining Earth now. So the thought of going to another planet just so we can ruin it too didn't really appeal to us. So everything is renewable. It's clean. It's green energy. So you're not going to see battery-packed light bulbs and things of that nature.
Okay, well, we're going to switch over to the halftime show. It's about 4 minutes, so if you need to take a break or something like that, just remember that your mics are hot. So if you're talking, people will still be able to hear you. People on Twitch, feel free to start putting in some questions now. And we can get to them right at the second part of the show. And the second part of the show, of course, we'll be talking about siege mechanics. So let's go right to the halftime show.
Known from the ancient times. They are the hunters of men's souls. They cannot be killed or defeated. Not this darkness. Not these immortals.
Okay, we're back. That was nice, Nairis. I like that.
Thank you.
So, any questions before we get into it? Lahira?
Nothing that we're really going to cover, or it's in reference to PvP, but we'll ask the questions after we get into it.
Okay. Oops. Lost my spot. Hang on. So the question to start it off then would be the stages of a siege. Could you go into that a little bit?
Absolutely. When it comes to sieging and repop, we have 4 major stages. We have the declaration phase, which is the start of the first 24 hours. The build-up phase, which is basically your next 24 hours, is when you start creating units. We have the persecution phase, which is a phase that's unique to repopulation sieging. And then we have the war phase, which is when the siege actually goes live and the city is on the line.
Now, if I'm a guild leader and I get the idea I want to attack another guild, what does the declare phase do, and how do I start that?
Well, how you start a declaration phase is, first of all, you have to get up all the resources necessary in order to create a siege camp, and it is going to be resource intensive. So once you have that and you have your siege camp, you will go to the other player's city and you will drop that siege camp. Once that's dropped, the siege has been declared, and at that point, the siege camp is vulnerable, and it's vulnerable for the first 2 hours, so you have to hang around and defend it. If you don't, or if the defenders manage to overwhelm you and destroy the siege camp, the siege doesn't go down. And what they get is they get a protection buff against the attacking guild if they manage to take out that siege camp. So after the first 2 hours, if you successfully defend your siege camp, then it becomes invulnerable until later on down the line. And once the camp becomes invulnerable, the attackers get the option to withdraw. Now, you would think, why would you drop a siege camp only to turn around and withdraw it? But we give you this option for the first 24 hours there, so that if the two nations can sit down and hammer out a treaty, or the defenders pay off the attackers, or you guys come to some sort of understanding, you're able to pick that back up. And any resources that you bring into the siege camps are completely returned if you make a withdrawal. Making withdrawal triggers the protection against being sieged again by that guild that attacked you the first time. So if DC were to drop it on someone and later on you guys picked it back up, you wouldn't be able to siege them again. I believe we're looking at about 7 days for that protection. But you don't get the cost of the siege camp back, just any other resources that you've brought into it since it became invulnerable. And now during this time, you have to choose whether you're going to do a kill siege or a capture siege. And a kill siege destroys the city, a capture siege captures it for you, although it's not going to be fully intact. It is going to be damaged in some way when you actually get it if you do a capture siege. It's going to default to kill, but you can only change it once. So at this point, when you set it, you have to be certain that that's what you're going to go with. So after the first 2 hours and it becomes invulnerable, at that point, both the siege camp and the city are invulnerable. They can't be messed with for quite a while at this point. You can also start bringing in resources so that you can begin creating units. You have to transport these resources into the siege camp, which means you actually physically have to bring them up there. But they're used to make units and things of that nature. So the first 24 hours, what you basically have is you have that declaration, you have a 2-hour period once you drop that siege camp where you're going to have to defend it, and then you have another 22 hours there for diplomacy. And we wanted to give a long enough time for guilds to sit down and hammer out a treaty or hammer out a payoff plan or whatever they need to do in order to stave off that siege or fix whatever misunderstanding might have led to the siege being dropped in the first place. So at the end of that first 24 hours, Then we move into the build-up phase.
Actually, with the build-up, actually, if I can go back to the declaration there, you said that the attackers have to build a camp themselves on the outside, correct?
Yes.
And how vulnerable are they? Can they be attacked by any guild that's passing by?
Oh, absolutely, yes. We aren't locking these into just 2 guilds. Both sides will be able to have supporters. There can be people who throw in with the attackers, your allies. They can come and drop siege camps as well after the first 2 hours. And for the defenders, they're going to be able to call in their allies, and they're going to be able to drop support camps in support of the city and actually keeping it safe.
Okay. Now, getting into phase 2 with the building, what can we expect from that phase, and how long is that phase?
Well, the build-up phase is going to last about a day. Not necessarily exactly a day, but about a day. And what happens there is this is when you're starting unit production for the primary siege and primary support camp. These units, they can't be destroyed or damaged right now, so as you're popping these units out, they're basically safe. You'll have to transport the goods physically in for anything that you want to create. So this means you're going to have to bring your people out constantly to sort of stock up the siege camp. During the build-up phase is when the attackers are able to set the persecution window, and the defenders are also able to set the siege window at this point. The persecution window is able to be set from hour 46 to hour 50 from the time that the siege camp is dropped. And the siege window is able to be set from hour 54 to hour 66, but it defaults to hour 60. So just to sort of give an example, if you drop a siege at noon on a Sunday, it will default, if the defenders do not change the time, it will default to midnight going into Wednesdays when it would go live. So it's an offset siege window, and that is to help compensate for the problems between North American, Australian, Asian, European prime times. So if you drop it at your prime time on a guild that isn't on your time zone, you potentially gave them a prime time window. So it's going to require a lot of tactics and strategy to ensure that you're getting the windows that you need without basically giving them a free victory because you put it at their prime time and your off time. So throughout the build-up phase, you're basically just going to be pouring resources into these camp and popping out units. These units will help you when the siege goes live. They will actually be able to help you take down the city grid. During the build-up phase, you also get 2 other options. One is forfeiture. This is available for the attackers. And you're able to forfeit at this point. Unlike with withdrawal, there's a penalty for forfeiture. You lose the resources that you've already used to build units. The surrender declaration is available to the defenders during the build-up phase, and that allows them to say, hey, you know what, we can't beat you, or we don't want to fight it out, and allows them to transfer over the city without the siege ever having to happen. And while that, we don't expect to see that used a lot, it's definitely going to be one of those things where there's going to be a time and a place when a nation goes, you know what, we've got 4 cities and we can't even keep up with the maintenance of this one, so why don't we just hand it over, hammer out a treaty, become friends with these people, they can have the city, they can have our backs, and it's a lot better than having to fight it out for a city you don't even really want. So time and place, but it's definitely a political option for people to be able to use. So we go through there, and we go through about 24 hours on the build-up phase, between 22 and 26 hours on the build-up phase. The build-up phase ends when the persecution window starts. Now, the attackers do not have to have the persecution window. They can opt out of it, and it doesn't occur. But when build-up phase ends is when persecution begins.
So that would be the end of...
So you said this persecution phase is... You said the persecution phase is unique to the repopulation. What exactly is it, and how does it function, and what makes it unique to the repopulation?
Okay, well, in my experience, it is definitely a unique phase. What we're looking at is a phase that's going to be about 2 hours long, and the attackers are going to set it. Now, normally when it comes to city sieging in an MMO game like this, where you spend so long and an entire guild has to get together to create a city and to keep a hold of it, the standard is that the defenders set the time, and we follow that standard. The defenders do get to set the time when the siege goes live, but the persecution phase belongs to the attackers. They're able to set that window from the 46th through the 50th hour for it to go live. It's going to last about 2 hours long. Now, during this 2 hours, both the siege camp and its units and the city grid are vulnerable. You can't lose the city at this point in time. We're looking at only allowing about 30% of the health to be taken off of either the siege camp or the city grid. But at this time, you're also able to destroy units. And any units that are destroyed, they're gone at that point. So it's a really good place for the defenders to even be able to rally and try to get an advantage there. At the same time, a lot of attackers, I think, are going to take this window and use it to try to gain an advantage. It could go either way. It's going to depend on who plans the best for it, who is able to outmaneuver the other side. And I think in some cases, you may end up seeing 30% off the siege camp and 30% off the city grid as well. And that basically puts them in the same boat they were before they even had it. So it's a very unique mechanism in that the attackers control it. They decide if it happens at all. They decide when it happens. But it's fair. It's balanced because the defenders have just as much opportunity to mess up the attackers' worlds as the attackers do to mess up the defenders.
When do you have to declare that you are going to put in a persecution phase? In other words, how long will the defenders have to prepare for this persecution phase that may or may not happen?
The persecution phase, the time is chosen in the build-up phase. Let's see, we're looking at on day 2, hour 22 to day 3, hour 2. I'm sorry, no, that's the actual window there. The first, I believe it's the first 12 hours of the build-up phase they're able to set it. So they have plenty of notification that it's going to happen or not. At the end of that window, if the attackers haven't set a time for it, it doesn't occur. That's how they opt out, is by not choosing a time. But
Okay,
there will be plenty of notice for both sides.
Great.
And so that's the end of phase 3.
Yeah, that's the end of the persecution phase, is that 2 hour period. Once that goes down, any damage that's been done to the siege camp or to the city grid is irreparable at this point. You can start to try to repair things again during the war phase, but with so much fighting going on, since that's the whole point of the war phase, I don't see a lot of repairing getting done, but you will be able to have that option and make the attempt to repair things. But any damage done during the persecution phase is permanent until war begins.
What happens to the materials after the siege?
Materials after the siege, if the attacker actually wins, they should be able to get any resources they haven't spent back. But the war phase is actually when it opens up, and that's when the city is on the line, and the victory conditions are fairly straightforward for both sides. The attackers have to get through the city grid, through the walls, and either destroy or capture the control center, depending on the type of siege that they've laid. For the defenders to win, either they have to take out the siege camp, basically bring it down to no hit points, or they have to withstand 4 hours of the attackers' attempts before the siege will default to them.
And that's the phase 4 we're talking about, right?
Yeah, that's the war phase. That's when it goes live, and it's what happens is the final there.
So during the war phase, is there any type of special mechanics or what's the most important thing that happens during that time?
I would say the most important thing that's going to happen during that time is going to be the tactics and strategies of the guilds involved. It's really going to come down to the difference between a good battle plan and a bad one. In some cases, numbers are important, but I don't believe zerging is going to be the most effective way of winning a siege. I think good strategy is actually going to have the upper hand over numbers.
Now, if a city is let's just take a city as a square for simplicity's sake. Can I attack side 1, 2, 3, and 4, or is it pretty much whatever the front door is? That's where you have to lay all your assets at to begin with.
I don't think we're going to have you lay them at their front door. That's almost unfair for you guys to be right there where they can walk right out. As far as exact placement, I'm not sure if it's going to be completely customizable or if there's going to be a specific point, but I would lean towards there being a choice on where to drop it, I believe, but that, again, that may change as we look at metrics and things in testing.
So we've reached the end of the war for defensive at that point,
For
right?
offensive.
Or offensive, right?
Yeah, if the attackers win on a kill siege, what we're looking at is they're going to be able to take, I believe, take some of the resources from the city. They won't be able to turn around and drop a control center. What we're looking at doing is actually putting a war-torn buff on the plot if there's a kill siege that goes down. And it's going to have a random amount of time, hopefully, a random amount of time so that no one knows when it comes up. And that way the attacking guild who goes and destroys the city, can't just plop down a new control center, destroy the city, get the resources, and get the city plot. So we're going to have a debuff there to prevent that sort of thing from happening. But for a capture siege, if you capture that control center, the city is yours. It belongs to the attackers at that point. It's probably going to be damaged. How much, we're not sure. We're going to have to look at metrics and see what's actually fair and balanced for it. But for capturing, you get the city, and I do believe you're going to get it more or less intact. City structures wise, player vendors, player housing, things of that nature, those get packed up. They go back to the players that own them, so you don't get those things. But the city itself is yours if you capture it.
First, before we go on, Lahira, anything in...
Yeah, I got a lot here. I want to try and make sure that we cover everybody's questions. So if I ask something that you guys have covered that I didn't notice when I was trying to keep up with everybody here, just let me know you've covered it, or you're going to be covering it, and then they can wait until you answer. Kayletta said, are there any incentives to siege other cities and nations, and what are the major benefits of owning a city?
Are there any benefits to sieging cities? You're going to incur a serious resource cost to siege a city. The city is the benefit that you're looking for. Whether it's a statement to tell the nation that we're stronger than you and you better listen to what we say, or you better not mess with us, and you just destroy their city outright, or you say, I like this plot of land that you have, I want it, and you go and take it. So the benefit really is the cities themselves. And as far as benefits to having a city, there's flat out, there's prestige involved in it. There's going to be a limited number of city plots, and guilds are going to have to fight to hold them. They're going to have to take a lot of time and a lot of resources to build these cities up. So I think in one hand, they're going to be a symbol of prestige. They're also fully customizable, so then you can get into the people who like to decorate, the people who like to run political things. That's all going to be a part of it as well. It's going to be a home for a nation, and that means a lot. If you've ever experienced your guild having a place that belonged to you, not something that the game said, oh, this is your instance guild hall, just like everyone else's, but a place that you designed, you built, that you fought over. It means something to a guild to have something like that. In addition, player vendors, shop vendors, are a perk for cities. That's the only place that they're going to be available, I believe, unless something seriously changes between now and release. There's going to be player housing that's going to be available for cities as well. So there's definitely going to be some perks to having it. There's the horticulture skill, which is going to be primarily nation-based. So there's definitely some perks for having a city besides just the pride element, but I think really and truly the pride element is going to be enough for a lot of guilds.
Okay, we have another one from Abandoned Dinghy. Can only one group guild of I'm sorry, it keeps scrolling. Guild or groups of guilds siege a city during that period. Example would be two opposing nations want to besiege the same city but don't want to work together.
Yeah, you'll be able to drop multiple siege camps. But as for who gets the city, I believe it's the oldest siege camp that's there when the city is taken. I think that's how the mechanism's going to work there. But at the same time, if you and an opposing guild both want to siege the same city, there's nothing to say that they're not going to roll through, destroy your siege camp when you drop it, and then go and drop their own. They don't even have to wait for you to, if they know what you're doing, they can roll through and destroy it for the nation, and then they can drop theirs. Otherwise, they can show up, they can destroy yours, and then they could siege the city as soon as it becomes available to be sieged again. So there's a number of options for guilds like that if they want to fight over a city who's fighting to maintain itself. It will definitely be possible to have three-way type things going on.
And here's one that's kind of correlated. Can a completely neutral party come in and just attack both defender and attacker and wipe the floor with both? From Darsh.
I'm sorry, I just missed that one. Can you repeat that?
Can a completely neutral party come in and just attack both defender and attacker and wipe the floor with both?
I suppose yes. It's not instance. It's in the persistent world. This stuff's gonna all go down live on the server. So yes, you could just roll through and sort of siege crash if you want to. You can go through, kill everybody, and then decide, if you're going to destroy the siege camp or you're going to help them out and destroy other things. Yeah, definitely, you could sort of play as a neutral third party, although I'm not sure how neutral that would make you. But yeah, you can play chaotic evil or chaotic neutral and roll through and just destroy everything in your path. There's nothing that's going to stop you since it's all persistent world.
Wolf, do we have time for some more? We've got a lot.
Yeah, actually, Hardware, I thought, sent me a question that was about attacking, right? Didn't you want to ask about attacking? The phases?
We just did the attacking phases.
Did we? Oh, I must.
It's not about the reverse order if you're on the defensive.
Oh, defensive, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Are we done with the attacking questions then? Because like Law said, we still have a bunch.
Yeah, we've got a few more in here.
Okay.
Let's see here.
It's page 3 on my notes.
Do the attackers have a grace period if they win the siege before they can be attacked, or can they be immediately counterattacked?
They should not be able to be immediately counterattacked. I believe acquisition of a city is going to fall under just standard acquisition. We're looking at 14 days for a first city, a grace period, sort of a safe period, and then 7 days for second or third, fourth city. So yeah, they should have a grace period available to them to sort of rebuild it, get it ready to be defended again before someone's able to come in and siege them.
We have another one. Does surrender auto-destroy if the attacker has set the siege to destroy?
I believe surrender is going to cede the city over, period. It's going to just sort of cede it. So I don't think it's going to destroy the city. I think it would cede it over to the attackers.
Okay, let's go with, will there be a set amount of support attacking guilds at any given time? The reason I ask this is if you become one of the top guild city on a server, can everyone on the server decide to completely wipe one city off the map?
Theoretically, yes, but because of the factions, ON and FPR are always hostile to one another. It would have to, for everyone to be able to band together, it would have to be a rogue nation that was that hated. Let's say, it's an FPR nation that everyone hates. Well, the people in FPR can't help destroy the city. They're going to be friendly to them. Excuse me, I'm sorry. They're going to be friendly to them whether they like it or not.
Okay, how would structure ownership transfer on a capture siege?
I don't think we have the exacts written on that at the moment, but you don't get player housing, you don't get players' banks and things of that nature. I believe the structures themselves on a capture siege, the city-owned structures, would probably go ahead and turn over. We're going to have to look at exactly how we want to do that, but chances are it's going to be something along that line.
Okay. It looks like we've covered most of them. If you guys...
I have something really quick, if I may. On the website for the game overview, it does mention that houses will be, apartments will be instanced in a way. So just like you said, if I'm a crafter and I have all my stuff and I have stuff cooking and the city blows up, I don't lose any of that stuff, correct?
You don't put anything kind of cooking either. It's you actually are there when you craft.
Okay.
And crafting is instantaneous. It's just a matter of getting the stuff together to do it.
Okay.
So no, you're not going to lose anything. You're not going to lose you won't even lose your layout to your house. We pack that up into your PDA and you're able to go to another spot, assuming you have one, obviously. Go to another spot and drop it down and everything will be exactly how you had it before.
Okay.
Okay. So on to defense, right?
Absolutely. Now, I'm a guild leader and my city's getting attacked by another guild. What are the declare options for the defenders of that city?
Well, if your city is getting sieged, it is the attacker's choice as to when that starts. So there's always the fear that, 3 a.m. raids, 3 a.m. city sieges. And yes, they can choose 3 a.m. for it to go down, but just be aware if they choose 3 a.m., your default time is now 3 p.m. So now you're looking at a prime time window to actually get the siege going on the war phase. So the first 2 hours that siege camp is vulnerable, you're going to want to rally your troops, you're going to want to rally your allies, anybody that you can get out there, even if you could just contact enemies of your enemy who's sieging you and say, hey, you know what, they're dropping a siege on us, come help us mess them up. Or that old adage, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, I think is really going to come into play in this game, like it does in many games that have sieging. So the first 2 hours are going to be crucial if you don't want to have the siege happen at all. If you're raring for that fight and you want your chance to prove it on the battlefield with your city at stake, then absolutely, just stand back, let the 2 hours go by, let them sit there and cool their heels for no good reason. But if you don't want that siege to go down, the first 2 hours are your best shot at stopping it. Or really, your only shot at stopping it without having to sit down at the table. Now, the first 24 hours, you do have the attackers do have the option to withdraw. So if you're a defender and you're like, well, this is all a misunderstanding. This happened because one of our people got stupid and did something stupid and it offended you guys, and we fixed it because we kicked him out. So pick it up. We'll pay the cost for it because we know you're not going to get the cost back. Pick it up. We can be friends again. So you have 24 hours there to go to the table and say, hey, you know what? Can we fix this without having the siege go down? But after the first 24 hours, there you lose the withdrawal option. So then if you haven't convinced them at that point to withdraw the siege, the price for doing so for forfeiting later on definitely going to be more expensive because we move into the build-up phase then, and the build-up phase is when they're going to start pouring in resources and they're not going to get their unit resources back. So the cost for getting them to pick it up is going to be a lot higher.
Now, before we roll into the build-up phase, the attackers are able to have people just show up and participate in the siege. If I own my city and I'm defending my own city, can people just walk up and start defending my city? Are they going to be able to come into my city, or how is that going to work as far as people showing up to defend?
Well, you're definitely going to have to let them in. Cities aren't going to be just sort of wide open, well, I suppose they could be. I don't think we're going to force you to have walls, but I'm going to say, given the nature of PvP and sieges and people looking for the easiest target for a new guild who wants a city, if they're all taken, I'm going to say having walls is going to be in your best interest, but I don't think we're going to force you to have them. But they should be able to come up. Now, saying that, they should be able to just come up and help. But saying that, it's going to be a little bit hairy when someone you don't know comes up and says, oh, hey, let me join in. I want to help you stop them. Because who's to say this isn't a spy? So I think while we're going to see some siege crashing like that, even just by individuals, I don't think it's going to be looked upon in a good way. Because you're really asking for trouble when you just invite random people that you don't know. Now a guild shows up that's your allies and says, hey, you know what, we're here, we brought 20, we're ready to fight. Yeah, absolutely, you're gonna open your doors, you're gonna say, come on in, let's do this. But random guy from neutral guild you've never heard of before shows up and says, hey, let me in, I want to help you. I'd kill him. I wouldn't risk it. I wouldn't risk the spy in my city when my city's on the line.
So you don't necessarily have to have walls around your city.
I don't think so. I'm not positive of that. I don't believe that you're going to have them. But I can say that it's definitely, they're not going to be these huge towering fortress-like structures that are going to take 2 hours to blow through. But your city grid goes down and your city's on the line. That wall is the last thing between the attackers and the inside of your city. So I think you're gonna want to have walls.
Or you can just lay there with your legs spread. That's not a very good idea.
Just like real life.
Oh, yeah.
Now, with what can we expect that's different on the defensive side for the build-up phase?
Build-up phase for the defenders is, I think you're going to see it be a little bit similar there. When they drop a support camp, they're going to be able to produce units that I believe are going to assist in the repair and maintenance of the city while the actual while the siege is going on. I believe that's what we're looking at initially. So it's going to be very similar, but it's a little safer for the defenders because it's in their city, it's right there by them. So getting the resources over there to actually create units is going to be a lot easier for them. They're not going to have to worry about people standing on top of it because their city's getting sieged because it belongs to them. So it's going to be similar, but I don't think it's going to be as difficult for the defenders to sort of ramp up their stuff as it will be for the attackers.
Now, are we limited to the number of sieging weapons we can have, depending on the level of our city, or anything like that?
There will probably be a limit to the number of things you're able to create. What the limit's going to be and how exactly we're going to determine that, we haven't hammered that out. That's going to depend a lot on metrics and things after we actually can get in. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And get in and actually have some testers get their hands dirty with sieging. So we'll have to sort of see at that point what we need to do. There's a lot of options on the table where that's concerned. So we're going to have to kind of cycle through them as siege testing gets into full swing. And then we'll make a determination on exactly how we're going to handle the number and, the resource costs there for them and things of that nature.
And one other thing, if we had so many defensive weapons stockpiled and we lose the city, is that something that the attackers get? Is all the stuff we had stockpiled, correct?
I am not positive if the attackers destroying the support camp is going to yield them resources or not. It very well may. But I don't think we've actually determined that part of it yet. But really, if they take out your support camp, I think you have bigger things to worry about than whatever leftover resources you had in that siege, in that support camp.
So that'd be the end of phase 2 for the defensive side.
Yeah. With the build-up phase also, though, that's when the defenders can surrender. So if it's a city that you don't want or you can't defend or you just don't want to deal, you're able to cede the city over at that point too.
So then you've got the persecution phase, which we know is initialized by the attackers. Is there anything unique that the defenders can do during the persecution phase?
Well, if they play their cards right, they can take a window that's sort of on the attacker's side of things and turn it into the worst possible idea that the attackers could have ever had. If you're able to raise your army and get all your allies over there, and you do it in a way where the attackers aren't expecting you to have those kinds of numbers, or you end up with a really good battle strategy, and you're able to go in there and you can wipe out their units and you can wipe that 30% off their siege camp before they can really do any damage to your city grid. What you've basically done is just shove the entire siege in your favor during a window which should have been in their favor. I think we're going to see that happen sometimes. But it's a gamble for both. It's a gamble for the attackers, and it's meant to be. But it's going to be important for the defenders to be prepared for the persecution window and to give it everything that they've got. It's technically only a skirmish. It doesn't decide the siege, but it's definitely could give one side or the other a distinct advantage in the war phase.
Now, you said you can take up to 30% off the shields and 30% off the siege camp. Are they roughly the same in size?
That's going to have to be determined as we actually get into testing. It's going to depend on, you know, what the siege units do and how we balance all that kind of stuff out. We're going to have to look at that metrics wise to make sure it's fair for both sides. We do want to provide a balanced siege. You know, it should be a little easier on the defenders to win than it should be on the attackers. The weight of winning should be on the attackers. But we do need to make sure that's going to be balanced. So as far as hit points and stuff, I can't even really theorize until we start looking at numbers. It's going to be hard to say exactly what they're going to be, or even remotely what they're going to be in regards to each other.
So if a defender is behind this shield that's over their city, can they stand on their walls and basically say, "I fart in your general direction and can't be hit"? Or can people hit them through the shield?
That's a good question there. I don't think that you're going to be able to target them back behind their walls. I don't think so. I think you're going to actually have to carve through that grid and get through the wall before you're able to target the people behind it. But, you know, if the walls have a standing platform, yes, you could probably go over there, do a /moon animation, and do the whole Monty Python thing.
Awesome.
Those damn guys with the guns again.
Yep. They got a wall.
Your father smells of elderberries.
Monty Python references. So that's the end of phase.
That's the persecution phase. That's phase 3.
3.
So then the next phase is war.
Yes.
So is there a time limit for how long you're allowed to take the cities? For instance, could the defenders wait out the attack, or?
Yeah, well, they can't just wait out the attack, because if they just sit there in their little hidey holes, what's going to happen is the attackers are going to break through the city grid and break through their walls, and then they're going to own their face. But you do have, we're looking at 4 hours as the starting amount of time. That could change with metrics as we get into siege testing. But we're looking at 4 hours right now. And at the end of 4 hours, if the defenders have managed to beat them back and their stuff is intact, if their control center is still there, at the end of 4 hours, the defenders win. But, you know, that's a sort of last-ditch way to win for the defenders. I think more often than not, we're not going to see the siege last 4 hours. That's basically, you know, that would be having a 4-hour standoff where nobody can manage to get past the other person. And a 4-hour standoff just sounds nearly impossible to me, having played city sieging MMOs before. 4-hour standoffs, it doesn't happen. So I don't think we're going to see the default happening a lot. But it's there just in case we do get that one situation where they could literally go all night long and nobody would win. 4 hours, that's when it's cut off and the defenders keep their city.
Well, that's a good thing, because like they say on the packaging, after 4 hours you need to call the doctor anyway.
That's true.
Cut off.
Cut off from what, though?
Oh, man.
Yes, please do not use the words cut off and that in the same sentence.
So I said cut off from what?
No, I don't know if we said it back during the build-up phase or not, but are we able to, as a city, stockpile extra resources as far as walls, extra turrets, extra sieging equipment that can be used in retaliation to the attackers, or is it pretty much everybody has what they have, and as soon as the phases start, it's who can build the most quicker?
I think there's going to be a limit on the amount of automated defenses the city's going to be able to have. But once the siege actually starts, you're not going to be able to add turrets and stuff. So what you've got when it happens is what you've got as far as automated city defenses go. I don't know, honestly, exactly how much we're going to allow, but the automated city defenses aren't meant... they aren't really meant to significantly impact a city siege. They're primarily there so that, 3 a.m., that roving pair of griefers that run into your city to kill your lone crafter, they get one-shotted by some turrets or guards or whatnot. So it's basically just to sort of protect your city against roving random people, not so much against an organized force that's looking to take your city.
Now, before we get into the other questions, we did have one Twitter one that said that, and you kind of touched on it, there's going to be NPC guards at barracks that we can put into these cities. Where do the NPCs take a part as far as when you're sieging a city? Are they going to be fighting with you? Are those going to come out because it's only player versus player? Are the numbers going to be thinned out? What are the dynamics for the NPCs that are supposed to be in your city to begin with?
Well, the units that you're going to produce in the siege and support camps are really what's going to do you some good in a siege. Any automated city defenses like guard barracks, if we have those, or turrets. I know turrets are definitely there. Those aren't really designed to stop an organized force. The units that are produced in siege camps will help you attack that city. They will help you take down the city grid. The support units from the support camp, I'm not sure if we're going to have any offensive units there, but we have talked about having repair units that will help try to repair the city grid even as the siege is going on.
Can you make repairs to your resources during a siege, like walls and stuff like that, and as the siege is ongoing?
Yeah, you should be able to repair things, but you're not going to be able to repair them as fast as they're going to be taken down. So having some dedicated installationists that are repairing things would definitely give you a little more time, especially in a sticky situation. But you can't just stick 20 people on a wall and repair it indefinitely. That's not going to be possible.
Actually, one of our members had a question. Can you siege and defend multiple at the same time? Can you go off and you know what I'm saying?
On the normal server, what we're looking at doing is limiting the number of sieges that can be out or on a guild at a time. I believe we're looking at doing one out, one on, so you can have one siege out at a time, and you can be sieged by one person at a time. So, if DC goes and sieges somebody, on the normal server, that's the only person that you can siege at a time. If they get sieged, that's the only siege that can be on their entire nation at one time.
Let me stop us right here real quick. Looks like XSplit is being a little bit of a pain on me. So I'm going to close out XSplit so the people on Twitch... we're going to lose video for a second, and we'll come right back to it. It's been frozen here. I see Leo was telling me it was frozen, so just give me 1 second, guys.
Oh, wait, we